Hey, what's going on everyone? Jaquan here. And we're back. We finally got another game here for this week. Still feeling a little under the weather. Did actually catch a cold there with the flu and migraines and all that. So still recovering. Wasn't able to go to a league. So we are using one of the videos that I recorded here a couple weeks back using the lemon water deck that I brought to the league. So I won't be talking too much today in terms of the video, but I'll still have, moments where I'll chime in case anything needs to be clarified. But, sit back, relax, and enjoy this casual game here with the Amber Sapphire deck that we've built versus the Baja Blast. So let's get right into it. We do kick it off here by going first and playing the Aurora into the Clarabelle 1-drop. So we're going to see if maybe Aurora can get us to Tiana 1 turn quicker, or even maybe an Aurora shift. Alright, so being questing 1. Let's see if we use the effect here. Okay, so we do use the effect of Aurora being able to play the shift Aurora with 1 extra ink earlier. This gives us a pretty decently statted character on board, being a 3/5, and also giving our other characters ward as well. The Baja Blast deck does find their turn 2 ramp, but that still does give us some time to set up with a couple of characters, because we are now going to be entering the turn where we can play out Lady into a Ludwig. Ludwig is especially very good in this matchup here, just due to the fact that the Baja Blast deck plays quite a bit of actions that we could potentially rip out. And, in this matchup here, we really just want to make sure Ludwig is hitting the Under the Sea. Any potential Azurite Seas as well, Bend to My Will, but most importantly, give us the insight of what exactly is in the Baja Blast decks, or Baja Blast hand. What this will help us do is allow us to see if it's actually safe or not to be able to go wide, right? Because especially in this matchup, we don't want to go too wide into an Under the Sea because we could get quite punished. So the opponent plays out the Baymax and takes out our Aurora, unfortunately. And the Snow White comes down on our side of the board. Snow White's a pretty interesting character because it is a 4 cost, so it is quite expensive, but it does have a very interesting static ability of not being able to get challenged. This means that the only way to really out the Snow White is to take it out with removal. In this, Baja Blast deck, these colors, their main removal does consist of Under the Sea and possibly You're Welcome, and in rare cases, even Mother Knows Best. Okay, so we are playing out the Ludwig, and we did manage to snipe out the Under the Sea here. And the reason I do this is because Baymax and the Clarabelle 3-drop is an 8 cost together, so it does have the option of singing together for Under the Sea, being able to wipe out every single character on our board, which would essentially turn the game upside down for us, because we are quite ahead in lore right now. So we just want to make sure that we're not running into any things that will turn the game into their favor. Ludwig is also especially good because it does have another ability here, is that when it does get banished, you can actually ink the Ludwig exerted face down into your inkwell. And because we mainly want to focus on characters and not so much of, playing cards like Azurite Sea or weaker one lore characters like T-Bow, Ludwig provides really good utility here. Yes, Ludwig only quests for one, but again, its main potential in this deck is to rip out non-character cards and to ramp us by having a character on the board as well that we don't mind having banished. So the opponent sets up a double Baymax, having a huge amount of stats right now, knowing that these Baymaxes can definitely trade into 2 or maybe even 3 of our characters if we're not careful. I am playing Akita 4-drop, which also does ramp us quite well, but importantly, it does also have the option to allow us to filter through our cards on the top of the deck, allowing us to find the cards that's needed, because we do play cards like Hans, which will allow us to gain lore if we control a princess or a queen. And we also play cards like Hiram, which is a 2-drop that also quests for 3. So we are able to have a lot of these characters that could potentially be game ending, that will allow us to just be able to find much quicker through Kita, while also ramping us at the same time. And these 2 color pairings of Amber Sapphire doesn't usually have too much card draw, so Kita can kind of act like a pseudo card draw as well. So we do choose to quest instead, and then we actually play the Sven, readying the Kita and then allowing Kita to use her ability, because we have not used that yet, and Sven only allows the character not to quest when it gets readied. So Hades does come down, taking out our other character, Baymax, then challenges into Kita. Sven does quest for 2 lore, so that would take us to 18 lore. And let's see if we have a way to actually close out the game here. Okay, so we play an Anna, and then we play a Hans. Like I mentioned before, Hans has the ability to gain 1 lore if you control a princess or queen, which was why we played the Anna there. So very thematic that we actually had the Anna and then the Hans. Hades takes out the Sven, and now they have to deal with both of our characters. Otherwise, we will be able to take this game here. Okay, so Your Welcome gets played, sending back the Hans to our deck and allowing us to draw 2 cards. Which I don't know if there's anything that we could do, or the opponent could do after that anyways, just because every single card that we play thereafter from our top deck is going to be lethal. So it does look like he scoops it up. So we are able to take the game 1 win. And now heading on to game 2, our opponent does choose to go first, and he starts it off with a Clarabelle. As you can tell, guys, I'm super congested, but you know what? The show must go on. Gotta get some sort of content out for you guys, so here we are, still recovering. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching our videos here at Lorcanada, and don't forget to give us a like, a sub, and leave a comment down below, right? Engage with us some more and give us some suggestions as well on some of the things that we can do to improve. And I know a lot of times, when it comes to making content like this, sometimes it can be a little bit draining and time consuming, especially. So if there's, any types of contents that you guys prefer to see other than gameplay videos, definitely let me know. Or if you just simply, like our content because of the gameplay videos, let us know as well, and that's something that we could definitely focus on. That's our main bread and butter here at Lorcanada. And let me know in terms of the gameplay videos if there's anything that we could do better here in terms of either editing, going into gameplay, like specific combos and more in depth, right? I know a lot of you do ask for deck lists of our opponents, but the reality is a lot of times we are playing, random league participants, and we don't necessarily want to keep asking for every single deck list that we play against, right? And it's already kind enough for them to allow us to record, to provide content for you guys to watch. But of course, anytime I am able to do so, I will still have the deck list for both sides nonetheless. And pretty much in terms of Fabled, we are almost coming to an end in terms of set champs. I'd say about a week and a half left, give or take. And then our final DLC in Milwaukee. And then after that, we're heading right into the next set for Whispers in the Well. And then we'll be back to being able to create decks. I'll have a deck profile video up around that time as well, giving you guys suggestions on some of the decks that I've been brewing, coming into the new set. And hopefully we can get some more feature matches up for you guys as well. Okay, so we do play out the Ludwig again. Because the Ludwig is uninkable, sometimes we do brick on Ludwigs here. But again, Ludwig is also there to ramp, and it's just a really good combo as well with Lady. Lady can spit it out for free, and then we can potentially rip a card, but also gain insight into the opponent's hand as well, to allow us to be able to play around a couple things. And let me know as well in the future if you ever want to see any videos of deck lists compiled for maybe set champs, for top 8s, top 4s, first place set champ deck lists. Definitely let me know, and maybe we can compile enough deck lists and we can definitely make it happen. And that way together we can break down some of the decks that you suggested, some of the decks that have won. Usually I like to, again, take a look at off-meta decks, right? Just because all the usual meta decks that you see out there for Blurple, Amethyst Steel, Amber Steel, Dogs, Baja Blast, they're all pretty much covered in other channels as well, alongside with Facebook posts, ink decks. So I always like to, have a look at those very interesting types of decks to cover, because I am more so of a non-meta player, just someone who always likes to deck build to go under the top decks. But of course, in bigger tournaments, usually you could probably see me playing some of my favorite colors, like purple. But I do have quite a bit of fun, you know, testing out different types of decks and different strategies and seeing how they interact with different parts of the meta, right? And it gives you a better understanding as well of the strengths and weaknesses of a lot of different decks, while allowing you to make different types of unorthodox plays that you wouldn't usually think about playing and maybe using one or two decks, right? So I always like to keep an open mind here for deck building. But it does still have to, you know, pass a couple of tests to be able to at least be viable rather than something that's scraped up together for, you know, tabletop fun with the family or something like that, right? It still has to win games. I don't mind losing games with it because obviously it's a given being a non-meta deck. But it still has to at least be able to showcase on what it wants to do. And if it can do that, then I'll be able to put it on the channel for you. But it does look like in this game here, the opponent is doing quite a bit to ensure that we aren't questing to 12 or 15 lore. And because they know that we're not going to be challenging into any of their characters, because the longer it takes for us to quest, the more likely that we're just not going to be winning that game. Now the top deck for the lady is going to be unfortunate, and because the opponent did manage to quest with some of their other characters, they will present lethal. So we do lose game 2, and going on to game 3, we will start it off with a Daisy. One thing I do like about the Amber Sapphire deck here is it does still have some of the most broken plays that Amber can do that you usually only see in Amber Steel aggro decks, right? Daisy turn 1, 2 Daisies turn 2, or you can go Aurora turn 1. Turn 2 you can use Aurora's effect to play a Tiana restaurant owner. So there's a lot of really good broken combos almost, right? That this deck can still utilize, while still complementing that very aggressive strategy with other things, such as, again, being able to have the Aurora 1-dropped get shifted in on turn 2, having cards like Anna, Penny, Hiram, Kita, right, do a lot of really cool things, and not to mention Ludwig, who's locked into Amber Sapphire colors. You'll be able to play a Bare Necessities and I guess like a Teepo, right, all in one card. So we are looking at the opponent's hand now, using the Ludwig. Now, a lot of you could argue Ludwig is generally going to be used like Ursula Deceiver, where you don't always want to throw down the Ludwig too early in the game. But sometimes they do beg to differ. Because if we know what the opponent has in their hand, like let's just say a Baymax shift, maybe we know not to quest in with an Aurora shift, or something that we need to keep readied in the meantime while we build up momentum on our side of the board. But keep in mind that if, let's just say, we're on the play, Ludwig is a turn 2 play. meaning that we could potentially snipe out cards like Azurite Sea if we go first. We could also take out Under the Seas that the opponent could have drawn after the mulligan. And we could also take out cards like You're Welcome, Bend to My Will, that could also get stuck in the hand too because it's also an inkable. So I feel like in this matchup here, Ludwig is a little more live, especially compared to Ursula Deceiver, because Ursula Deceiver can only rip out a song card from the opponent's hand, whereas Ludwig is a non-character card. So yes, this means that it can be an item, location, and action. So that's what makes Ludwig very, very versatile, right? So we're going incredibly aggressive here, playing out the Lady into the Lilo. Now the Bobby's going to challenge into our Ludwig. Ludwig is going to get banished, so it gets inked instead. Pleakley is going to come down, inking a card for the opponent. So Pleakley inks the Bobby, and this acts as a form of ramp after T-Port Sail the Azurite Sea, and can almost look like it could be a replacement for, you know, back in the day of How Far I'll Go. Okay, so the Daisy Duck will quest. Looking at the top card of the deck, it does not look to be a character, so it does get put into the bottom here. Daisy Duck is especially good in this matchup because the Baja Blast deck usually runs maybe half of actions and songs, so the chances of whiffing with Daisy Duck is pretty high. Wow, wow, wow. So we do play the Ludwig, and then Ludwig's gonna rip out the Under the Sea. So very, very crazy. Clarabelle comes down. We were expecting that because, again, on our previous Ludwig, we did see that Clarabelle shift in the hand as well. So again, that's something that we already know was the other card other than Under the Sea. Pleakley and Tipo will take out the Daisy. That's pretty awesome. We got the world's greatest criminal mind being able to take out the Clarabelle here. Again, world's greatest criminal mind will allow you to take out a character that has 5 strength or more. Okay, so the opponent plays a Baymax shift. And at this point, we're really just trying to race to 20 as quick as possible before the opponent can build up their board presence again. So we play a Moana, which does have pretty strong stats, but that Baymax shift really is blocking our way to victory right now. Just due to the fact that it has a 5/5 stat line, being able to trade with at least 3 of our things before it goes down. Now, in many cases here, you could argue just to keep everything ready, not to quest, and just build up your board. But keep in mind as well, we also are playing against a Baja Blast deck. This means that the longer we wait, the more characters they have on board, the more likely it is that they could be able to get an Under the Sea, which they could also find from a top deck's vision and develop your brain. They could potentially welcome their own character back into the deck to allow them to draw 2 additional cards, right? So there's a lot of different ways here. But not to mention right now, the opponent does have a decent amount of characters on board with quite a bit of stats. And 3 strength seems to be the magic number here that will allow the opponent to keep taking control of the board and keeping us at bay from being able to gain any additional lore right now. So he plays out another Pleakley, inking the other Pleakley with damage, essentially healing it. We're going to activate the Queen's Sensor Core. So what that does is that we can look at the top card of our deck. If it's a princess or a queen, we add it for free. And it also has a static ability of where if we could do control princess or queen, we gain 1 lore at the start of the turn. So that, I would say that is a pretty explosive turn here. You know, we were able to spit out 3 characters at once. And this is probably one of the worst top decks that we can see. So our opponent top decks dig a little deeper, meaning that they can take a look at 7 cards from the top of their deck and add 2 cards from that to their hand and put the rest in the bottom. This means that all they need to do is find an Under the Sea, which they do. Which I'm not even mad about, because dig a little deeper allows you to see 7 cards from the top of the deck. So the chances that Under the Sea comes down is going to be pretty high. So we top deck a Hiram, which does get us 3 lore if it quests, and it does look like we do whiff with the Queen's Sensor Core. That's why I only play 1 Queen's Sensor Core in this deck, is because this deck is not all princess and queens. You know, again, there's the Ludwigs, right? There's the ladies, there's the Hirams, so there are going to be a lot of characters that we play that could potentially whiff out with Queen Sensor Core, but I do find that Queen Sensor Core is just a really good card as well to just help you gain passive lore. The Queen Sensor Core is able to get us the Aurora right now, but the opponent's at 12 lore, so it might actually be too late, because now all of our characters are actually locked out because of the John Silver. Even if we play out the Aurora, John Silver can just keep giving Aurora Reckless until Aurora takes itself out. And next turn the opponent can quest for game anyways, because they have 4 characters that all quest for 2. So we scoop it up, and there you have it. So here is another week's gameplay video. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and stay tuned until the next one. Take care.